All right, good morning, everyone. We are live. Aaron and Mean should be hopping on soon, but we got Joe Farrow here. So what's up, man?
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing?
Yeah, it's been a while, man. How you been? You must be
Doing good.
excited. You think rates coming down? What's going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the markets are already pricing in the next, meeting in September with the Fed expecting to cut rates. Poly market, I think it has it at like a 80% chance of a rate cut. So it's just, the whole information thing is just so interesting because you can't believe everything you hear. They have the Fed meeting, they don't cut rates, and then the jobs report comes out, and then they revise it down, and now like the job market data is not valid again. So it's just, you can't believe everything that you see. It's just so stupid.
Yep. And now we got Aaron and Mean here. So morning, man.
Morning. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Yep. So
Good
we were
morning.
just
Good morning.
chatting real quick about rates before you hopped on, but this is gonna be kind of based around what you're working on right now, right? So quickly fill everyone in if they don't know what you've been working on recently and where you're at on that project.
Sure thing. Well, good to see you, Joel, Mark, and thank you everyone who dialed in. Lots of familiar faces there. But yeah, thank you for setting this up, Mark. This is we just reached a very critical milestone in the project that my wife and I have been working on, along with our team. So for anyone who doesn't have context, we are launching Everwood Reserve, which is a 32-bed memory care assisted living development project in the Houston area. So we're building 2 luxury assisted living homes on 7 acres of land in a suburb called Tomball. So to do that, we had to raise $2.8 million in investor equity and combine that with a SBA bank loan to try and finance this bad boy. So the total development and startup costs are about $9.4 million. And so in order of operations, we had to raise the money first. And now kind of as we sit here today, the next step is we got to go and finalize everything with the bank. And hopefully we will have shovels in the ground and start our construction at the beginning of September. So that is everything in a nutshell. But
Damn.
I would love to share anything that would be useful to the audience or answer any questions you guys have.
Damn, I shortchanged you. You said 9.4. I only put 2.8 or because I thought I saw that on your post.
Well, we raised $2.8
Okay.
million and then we're getting a loan for the rest of it. Think of it like a down payment. We're raising the amount that the bank wants to see from investors, and then they'll loan the rest.
All right. Any questions from you, Joe? I got questions more on like raising the funds. That's more where I'm looking at.
Well, to hear you say that you're going to be shovel ready in September, I mean, that's just bonkers. I mean, Texas, man, they just do things differently down there in terms of construction. I mean, you see, at least on my side, looking at residential, you see homes getting just thrown up in like 6 months, 4 months, townhomes, duplexes, et cetera. So yeah, I'd love to hear more about the permitting process, the plans, and all the engineering and all that stuff. Just the whole kind of the design part of it.
Yeah, why don't we roll back the clock a little bit? And everyone may have seen. I've been posting about it a lot recently over the last couple months, but realistically, the planning for this project started almost a year ago. And by the time, if we stick to our scheduled closing date, it will be almost a year on the dot from when we initially even talked about this idea. And we at that time was just my wife and I. It was just an idea floating around in our head. You know, if anybody has followed me for any period of time, primarily before this, we were doing rental properties, one rental at a time, and I still firmly believe in that as the best entry point into real estate. And we still plan to keep rental properties a part of our future. But what happened for us is we basically, through a series of personal changes in our life, including having 3 kids in just over 2 years, the math changed for us on what we needed, what our own personal financial goals were. Combine that with, the impact that we know that this type of project can have in the community. And it's a very personal thing for my wife due to some experiences she had in her family. Everything kind of fired all at the same time, and it led to pursuing this project. But realistically, she spent about 3.5 months driving around Houston looking for land before we found the current plot of land. So there was plenty of conversations with different cities within Harris County, which is where Houston's located. We looked outside of Harris County. She was driving up and down, and anybody who's been to Houston, it's basically a developer's town. The city center, things have just grown out and out and out in every single direction for decades. And developers go and buy up land 5+ years before it is even needed, because they know that the population is continuing to grow and expand out that direction. So it's really hard for a mom and pop to go find land because you're competing against all these big developers that have tons of intel that no way we could have. But we went under contract at the end of January on this land. And even before that, we had been talking to and interviewing GCs, architects, and civil engineers, trying to line up all these pieces. So as we sit here in August, we've already been working on this project for 12 months since it was the inception of the idea. And we've been under contract for over 6 months, tons of pre-construction, architectural designs back and forth, lots of different construction bids that we're working, fine tuning. Every single day, there's some type of activity. So when we say shovels in the ground in September, it's not just like, hey, we raised the money and now we're just going to show up and start. The planning has been fast, furious, and fierce all throughout.
Cool. Hold on. Let's just say good morning to everyone. I also want to remind everyone there's Joel's YouTube channel and Aaron's YouTube channel in the chat. So go subscribe to them and follow them. I want to say good morning to JLD Systems. Jeff is here. He's from York, Pennsylvania. He also tuned into the live yesterday. So hopefully, Jeff, you connected with Hunter. They were talking about maybe private money lending working together. So hopefully you guys reached out to each other in school. Big Cody's here. Flavio from Grandview, Washington's here. Good morning, Jim. Brian stopping by. What's up, B? James, good morning. And we got some people tuning in from paired channels. So maybe Joel's and Aaron may have paired their channels. Let's see. There was a question I already see for you from the McCune family at Parents YouTube channel. Where did it go? It said, good morning. Is it a CILA or assisted living facility?
Yeah, these are assisted living homes. And in Texas, you can have up to 16 beds and still be considered residential assisted living. So that we did very intentionally built 2 separate 16-bedroom homes so that we could stay within that set of regulations. And one common misconception that a lot of people have asked about is we're not actually providing medical care within these homes. Those services are contracted out for. So the caretakers in these homes are the furthest that they go towards anything medical related is that they're certified to dispense medicine. But even like pharmacists, doctors, everyone we contract out with, and we might bring home health services into the home or have doctors come and consult. But for the most part, everything else is outsourced. So yeah, it is a residential assisted living home.
I think a lot of people are also interested when the last time you were on the live with Charlie. I think people, because you also started, maybe got your feet wet by converting some of your already existing long-term rentals into kind of assisted living, right? Was that a way for you to kind of test the waters in a sense?
Yeah, so we got really lucky. It was actually the rental number 2 and 3 that we ever bought. We bought them as a package. Our agent brought them to us off market, and we can't take any credit for this because we were just right place, right time. They were already leased to operators for assisted living. These are both in Vegas. They're 4-bed, 2-bath houses. There was actually no conversion required. Long story short, if there's under a certain occupancy, this is different state by state, but in Nevada, the number 6. If you have under 6 occupancy, you don't have to go through and get all the commercial grade sprinkler systems and follow the stringent regulations that when you exceed that capacity. So these 2 single family homes were on these long-term leases with operators. They were paying significantly above market rent. They guarantee the rent regardless of how many residents are there. Kind of a landlord's dream come true because they're also covering the majority of the repairs. So we got exposure to that model very early in our journey, but we kind of chalked it up to a fluke. We didn't really figure out how could we replicate something like that. And it wasn't until 5 years later, looking back on our portfolio and saying, hey, those not only were those the best performing houses, but they also serve this additional purpose of providing a service to society. So we really liked that, and that definitely catapulted us towards the project we're on now.
I think a lot of people, that's what their vision's going to kind of be, right? They're going to want to see. I think already people messaged me after that last live about how did you go about, but like you said, they already were operating that way, right? Hey, Carrie's here. Like I said, I put their channel in the chat, the Parents channel. But Carrie's asking, I would be interested in learning more about what you're doing there. We've been throwing around the idea of a CILA for adults with developmental disabilities. Any familiarity with that, Aaron?
Yeah. So funny enough, that is what the two homes I just mentioned are. It's called something different in different states. So in Nevada, it was actually referred to as a supported living agreement. So there are, and our two homes do serve adults with developmental disabilities. The company that we contract with has been in business for something like 50 years. They have houses that are meant to serve different levels of acuity and behaviors. So we have one house that is high acuity, and we have one house that is a little bit more functional. And it's a really great arrangement in the sense that, again, it's not over regulated. The idea is to integrate people and give them the most normal quality of life and ability to, like in the more high functioning house, the people have jobs, and the staff's job is to help, enable them, empower them to live as close to a normal life as possible. So those are great homes. And I think most of the people listening to this are probably rental property investors. This is an incredible way to, you see all these lists floating around about cash. How can you cash flow in 2025? Obviously, it should be about more than just cash flow. If you're getting into something like this, there's an impact component too, but it is a really good way to find different purposes for your properties, especially if you're having trouble getting them to cash flow, because even just virtue of having zero vacancy can be a total game changer for a landlord, right? Cut out one of your biggest expenses there. But yeah, those are great. That's the two that we have in Vegas. Same idea though, you got to build relationships with all these operators. You got to do your due diligence and make sure you vet them and that they're going to be providing good quality of life, that you're not going to walk in there and be like, oh my God, what's going on in my house? You do have a responsibility as a landlord to verify those conditions and the reputation of the operators you work with.
Joe, anything for Aaron right now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a standpoint of the demand for these services, I guess still doing a little bit of research. It looks like there's a shortage of beds and rooms and whatnot. I guess if I'm a person out there that needs these services, how am I going to find them? How do I find you guys? I have a lot of questions on just like the actual demographics and the industry.
Yeah. So just to clarify, are we talking about adults with developmental disabilities, or are we talking about senior care?
Well, the senior care, what you're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. So you'll see a lot of stats floating around. I think a lot of people probably have heard the term silver tsunami. There are some national stats that are pretty jarring, right? Like there's 10,000 people per day turning 65. There's 4,000 people per day turning 80. So the population is aging very quickly. The boomer generation is over 77 million people. So just by volume alone, there is an influx of need. People are living longer. So just volume alone will substantiate a lot of the demand you'll hear about. But those are national stats, right? It's important to look localized. So for our market in particular, we're in Tomball, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston. We, did a ton of research to see just what is within a 6-mile radius of our land, what is the demand. And we used a third-party market research company called Haven that specifically focuses on senior care. They take into account a number of different factors. So they look at the age demographics, they look at income, they look at the ability to support monthly payments at different dollar amounts. So we had them run a few different slices. And what the net of it was that currently within that 6-mile radius, there's 150 bed shortage for assisted living and memory care at the price point that we're planning to charge, which is $7,900 per month per bed. And we also shored that up with doing secret shopping all around the area, not just within 6 miles, but regionally in that northwest part of Houston. So my wife would either walk into a home or give them a call and basically be, shopping on behalf of a family member and trying to understand, like, what are the rates that they're charging? Are they full? Do they even have availability? And across that area, even for the homes that were not as nice or not as new and updated, pretty much everything was at 90% or above occupancy. And there were rates varying across the spectrum. But when you look, apples to apples at the stuff that was closest in quality to what we're building, everything was full. So we're looking not only at that kind of high level market data, like the data driven approach, but also actually picking up the phone and calling and going into these places to see, is there enough is there enough demand based on the current available options to add more? And so that's kind of how we attack that. I'm not sure if that was what you're asking though.
No, yeah, that's right on where I was asking for sure. So the people that are paying the 7,000 and change for these services, are these being paid from someone's own, liquid savings and reserves and for retirement, or are there insurance plans, that take care of this stuff?
Yeah, so this is a private pay model, and that is pretty intentional, and it's not to be exclusive or try and penalize anybody who can't afford it. It's partially because it's a huge risk to the business if you rely entirely on Medicaid or Medicare reimbursements. That from the bank's perspective is viewed as a huge risk, and ultimately can cause like cash flow concerns and delays. If you're waiting for reimbursements that take 30 to 45 days to process, it can be a business risk. So again, it's not to be exclusive, but what it does is it essentially creates this is most likely going to be someone's last stop. We're built to serve through end of life, short of having some major medical condition that requires them to go to a nursing home. So the idea is that when people are spending this money, it's to have the highest possible quality of life they can with their final days. Most of the time, people end up doing things like maybe selling whatever their family home that they lived in for a long time. It's some combination of using kind of the remaining parts of their whatever retirement nest egg they have, or some combination of that plus some support from the family. The customer, in addition to the resident, is usually that middle-aged mother or father who, they want to take care of their parents, but they've also it's too crazy in their house to take on caretaking full time because they have their own lives and their own kids. So it's really it's usually a team effort to chip in and make those payments, but it's largely justified by people because they know what is there to spend on once you're no longer here.
Got it.
I want to say shout out to Jason Calabasita. Good morning. Josh Burdick is here. Let's see who else. Old guy REI. He said aloha from lovely Watsonville, California. He says Joe and Aaron, great to see you, and Mark as usual.
What's up, Frank?
Let's see. We got Dubious here. Joey M said we should bring someone on with taxes questions next time. I think that's a great suggestion. Joe V finally tunes in. Yeah, he's talking about senior cares, right up his alley, probably. But I did hear someone talking about this also too, from a kind of different standpoint of like why the economy. I mean, maybe the jobs data that recently maybe may change this, but people are still looking at the economy still fairly strong. Part of it is because of the healthcare system. And a lot of it is like these assisted living facilities, or people, the boomer generation is just getting older. And no matter what inflation is at, no matter how poorly the jobs may be, you still got to take care of these older generation. So healthcare is what's really holding up a lot of the data for the economy. So I thought that was an interesting point. But let's see, Joel. Also, we can get back to this, but Joel, quickly, talking about jobs, the economy, whatnot. What are you seeing with rates currently this week, and what's your projection maybe for August and September?
Yeah, I mean, I first want to go backwards to what happened last September, and looking back on it, it just seems so clear. So September of 2024, the Fed announces the rate cuts, and within minutes, hours, the next day, the bond market, the 10-year Treasury started shooting up, and for the next 2 months, we saw essentially 20-year highs on the bond market. And so, looking backwards from July of 24, when they announced a no cut into the coming weeks and months into September, we saw the bond yields drift down. And I don't have a chart in front of me, but I think the 10-year Treasury dipped down to like 3.6 right before the September Fed meeting, and then they shot back up over 4%. And essentially, the markets were already pricing in that Fed cut as you're going through August into September. And it seems like the same type of pattern is going to happen. We saw the July meeting, no cuts, and then a couple of days later, there was a revision on jobs. And so now there's a little bit of a weaker outlook. And we're already seeing the, a lot of like Polymarket, I posted on this yesterday. Polymarket shows the odds of a September rate cut being over 80%. So the markets are already starting to price in this next Fed meeting and a rate cut. And so we see the 10-year Treasury get to, it was 4.4 just last week, and now we are at 4.2. And now we've dipped below 4.2, which is a major level. If you look at the last 15, 20 years, there's this major support and resistance level at 4.2%, up and down, up and up and down. So if it goes below that 4.2 level and stays there for at least a week, I think it could be promising signs for rates to drift a little bit lower. But it's already being priced in, and we'll see what happens.
Got some more people tuning in. We got Alex, the accidental landlord or accidental investor. He's also in our ORAT school fantasy football league, and he's a Niners fan, so I know it's going to be easy money from him. But Carrie does have some questions for you, Aaron. She said, what was the process you went through to start this, and is there a national company we can look into?
Sure, yeah. So I think I was saying before, it started just as an idea where we kind of had exposure to the residential assisted living concept through those 2 properties we owned in Vegas. But really the senior care idea came when we heard a podcast. One of the other gentlemen that I came on last time with Mark, Charlie Cameron, he and his partners run an assisted living mastermind group called the RAL Room. And I heard a podcast where they talked about this lease to operator model. And I said, hey, wait a second, I have those. I didn't even know what it was called. I didn't know how to replicate it or build those relationships. And that sent me down a giant rabbit hole of looking into, how does one start one of these? We joined their group, and after about a month of looking into it and understanding, what is the need for this in America, what is the process for actually opening one of these, we basically built up the courage to think about actually operating one of these ourselves. And it's a pretty steep learning curve. It's a long timeline. It's a lot of regulations, and it is definitely not for the faint of heart. It's been, a pretty difficult transition when you go from doing rental properties, which are largely straightforward. There's definitely their share of challenges, but this type of project with development and then eventually operating the business has a lot of steps, and it's very important that you not only do them in sequence, but that you don't cut corners on anything, or else not only will that bite you in the butt later, but it also might prevent you from even getting off the ground. You're dealing with different licensing authorities, cities, regulators, permits, all that stuff. So we ended up hiring a mentor. His name is 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄𝐓. He and his wife have built the exact buildings that we're building in Tomball. They built them in Georgetown, Texas, which is just north of Austin. So they've navigated all the Texas regulations. They've, again, built this exact building. So we took their blueprints to a local architect, and we started scoping that out locally for Tomball. And so he gave us pretty much the exact roadmap that they used. And we're working hand in hand with him and their team to replicate that in Tomball. So basically, a long way of saying we didn't reinvent the wheel or try and blaze our own trail. We tried to go off of something that someone else had put into place successfully, including everything from development into successful operations. So there are a lot of different steps, many different, parts of that I could peel back. But in a nutshell, yeah, took a proven process, found a mentor that was doing what we wanted to do, and hired them and are working with them. The same could be said for just about any type of thing you want to do, but that was the path we took. And then your second question, is there a national company we can look into? I'm not sure I fully understand the question. If you're talking about like whether there's someone that can teach you how to do this or not, the RAL Room Assisted Living Mastermind, that's the one that we chose. Been very, very happy with, been a member since they launched last summer. They have a lot of comprehensive information on everything from how to validate, whether this is the right fit for you, all the way to actually running and operating one of these yourself. So I hope that answered your question.
Aaron, I'm not quite sure. The one on Facebook, is that a private group? Or I forget. Is it?
There's a Facebook group that is, I think it's called Residential Assisted Living Operators and Investors. I forget the exact name of the page, but that's a bigger public group. It's free. Actually, a lot of great conversations and information in there. Like if you are, I would call it RAL curious, I would say that's a good place for you to go just see, like observe some conversations and look at, different projects people are doing. But the mastermind itself is actually a paid community that's in school.
Also want to remind everyone that the one rental at a time ORAD event tickets are now on sale for February, and I think it's okay for us to talk about it because I believe Zuber has mentioned it out on one of his videos. So it's kind of confirmed, and those of you that do have questions should also know that Aaron will be speaking at the event in February. So bring your questions there. And Aaron, are you excited for that to be on stage?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible honor. I was at the event last year, and I know, I don't take that lightly that we got an invitation for that. It's very, very humbling to know that hopefully we have a story that can resonate with people of, not only how we started our journey and built our core rental portfolio, but how we expanded and pivoted into what we're doing now. So I'm actually also really grateful my wife is going to be able to join for that. So we'll be able to tell the story of, how that also fit into the life that we're trying to build for ourselves and our family too. So it's not just about the project and numbers and returns and all that stuff. It's really the lifestyle as it's evolved as we've gone through this journey. So yeah, very, very honored to be included and hopefully looking forward to seeing a lot of the people that are watching or listening live in person, because there's nothing quite like that.
Yeah, and just to name some of the other speakers, Jason Hartman will be there. Pace Morby are some of the keynote speakers. Brandon Potts from the school community also be speaking there. So yeah, go get your tickets. They are on sale right now. Also want to mention Dion's book is available on Amazon. I just got my copy in the mail yesterday. I'll put the link in the chat soon. But Joel, Alex does say, thanks for sharing, Joe. I'm working on getting a property under contract, which will close a few days after the Fed meeting. Are you seeing things pick up on your end right now, Joel?
Yeah, I mean, I put a post out maybe 3 or 4 days ago. I was talking to an investor friend of mine, and he's looking out for quadplex. He's got like 4 offers on, 2 under contract, and looking for more. And the day that the Fed said, "Hey, we're not cutting rates," he called me up and he's like, "Thank the Lord, throw a couple expletives in there," because he knows that if the Fed lowers rates, especially if they do like a 50 basis point cut or even more, that everybody on the sidelines will start to want to get back into the game and drive up more demand and potentially put pressure on prices. So he wants to get a few more deals scooped up before the markets change. So again, there's no crystal ball, but that's just what one person's thinking. And so yeah, I've definitely seen more activity in the markets. And just to throw a data point out there, from a DSCR standpoint, we've been quoting rates in the 7s and 8s for a while. I just quoted a quadplex in the mid to low 6s on a DSCR loan. So rates are starting to come down. People a little bit more optimistic. Deals are starting to pencil out better with rates coming down a little bit more. So it's just something that's interesting to see what will happen.
Jeff, JLD System says we have a group living home across the street from our residence. He also says there are many ways to invest in real estate as there are investors. Yeah. So Carrie, if you are still here, just remind, I don't know if you have access to the school community, but I know Charles is in there. You can always reach out to Aaron in the school community. He is there, so you can message him there if you do have more questions. Alex says, I need to get my own assisted living property up and running. I can't count on my kids. They'll go with the lowest bidder. Yeah. Shoot, I did have a question though. What was it going to be? Damn, I can't remember. I forgot. Oh, Dion's book. Yes, Jeff received his on Saturday. Hey, Chris is tuning in from Virginia. And that's for what I was going to talk about. I also want to remind everyone, Jack from Jack's Business Talk is setting up a Pittsburgh ORAD event meetup September 5th through the 7th. So if you are in the area, come check it out. They're going to be seeing different areas in Pittsburgh. Rockstar agents Jeremy Taggart and Liam will be showing them around. They'll be meeting contractors, HVAC, handyman, so-and-so, and kind of just getting a feel for the market. But yeah, Chris said he'll be there if I'm there. I still haven't confirmed if I'm going to be there yet, but I'll keep everyone posted.
Hey, hey, Mark, I have a question for Aaron. So you use the word "we" in terms of you and your wife going through this process, and you mentioned her walking down, driving, looking for different pieces of land and doing research. And it just makes me think of people that I know. I was just talking to a buddy of mine here in St. Louis, Missouri, and he's got, I don't think, 5 properties now, and he's been in the game for about 7, 8 years. And him and his wife are not on the same page. She just doesn't get it, doesn't want to get it. She's, a teacher in the educational field, and they're just not on the same page about investing, about life, about just time that it takes to put investing in resources and learning and all these things. So just to kind of go backwards in time, because you started out your business or your work journey in the concert management consulting field, right? So when did you meet your wife? Did you know that she'd be a rock star like you in real estate? How did that real estate part get interwoven into your world, and when did she get involved?
Yeah, no, it's funny. So we've been together for 12 going on 13 years now. So we were together before we ever had the bright idea of taking real estate investing seriously. We met in our early 20s, and we, kind of grew up together as well, and have evolved through different chapters of life. We lived in Las Vegas, as you mentioned. I worked in the concerts industry. She worked for a nonprofit that was affiliated with the concert company that I worked for. And so we were running and gunning, living that mid-20s Vegas life, before we ever wised up to the idea of taking our financial lives seriously. But I think I've shared this story before, and I'll share the shorter version now. But I basically burned out working in the concerts industry, ran myself into the ground, and landed myself in rehab in 2019. And coming out of that was when I realized that my life wasn't on the track that I wanted it to be on. And with that, I was also bringing my wife down. We had been recently married, a little over a year at that time. We knew we wanted to have kids. We knew we wanted a different future than what our present was presenting us at that time. And so we kind of found real estate as a symbol of this idea of, let's take a little more control of our future. At our employer, like I was working 80 plus hours a week, literally, in the concerts industry, part of why I burned out. And I wasn't getting paid anymore for that, right? All that effort and energy and emotional expenditure did not really get, marginal results on top of that. So real estate became this idea of like, hey, if you go find a property, you buy it, you get to benefit from all these different levers of building wealth that don't belong to an employer. They don't belong to anyone else. It belongs to you and your family, and then the people that you serve. And so I fell in love with that process, that idea. She was, of course, extremely supportive, and we did a lot of. We've always both been involved, but I think it wasn't until this project that, she's the CEO of this business. She is the visionary. She's the one who really caught fire behind the idea of residential assisted living. She's the one who has the personal connection with experiences she had in her family. So 100% of her heart is behind this project. Mine too, but point is that I think the context matters a lot. She's always appreciated and supported that, personal development and learning about different ways of building wealth is important, but that does, there's different things that resonate with different people. And I think assisted living was finally the one that lit the spark that has now become this fire that drove this project to where it is.
I want to say, so Carrie, she said she's going to steal Charles's login and probably reach out to you, Aaron. But as I did mention, for those of you that are tuning in now, if you haven't heard, Aaron will be speaking at the ORAD event in February. So you can also pick his brain there and also get his wife's perspective on things. Casey, good morning, man. What's up? Yes, Joel is a lender. So if you had any questions, put it in the chat and Joel can try and help you with that. But there is Joel's YouTube channel, Lending for Entrepreneurs. So go follow him there. And as I mentioned, Jack is tuning in, and Jack will be having a Pittsburgh event September 5th through the 7th. But Aaron, Jack may reach out to you also because his wife, Cynthia, is very interested in what you're doing. She's in that health field, kind of a nursing background, and she has rentals, but she's looking to maybe get into the assisted living side. So she may reach out to you. So Jack.
Yeah, we've been sidebarring a bit. we're going to make that happen real soon here.
All right, cool. Let's see. Frank says, I feel really bad for anyone trying to get into real estate investing without a supportive partner. Those differences seem like they can be a bigger issue. And yep, very true, Frank. And that's why we hope one day Cynthia will be speaking on stage with you. That's what everyone is pushing for, and we just got to get Cynthia over that hump. But if Casey's not going to ask his question, I know this was a question he did have. It was about recasting a loan, Joe. Like maybe is there like pros and cons about it? Do you have to put a big down payment to recast a loan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is what is somebody trying to accomplish with it, right? So if you have because VA loans don't allow recasting is just one example, but let's say you have a conventional loan, you sell a property, you have a lump sum of.
Joe looks like he's on Coconut Wireless going on there. Let's see. Chris Webb says, okay, that's for Joe also, but hopefully Joe will reconnect. But yeah, so Aaron, so I guess Jack reached out to you then, Aaron?
I'm sorry, I'm on my phone here and I have calls coming in. I have to decline. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you now.
You're good.
Shit.
I guess he can't hear us now. So,
can you hear me?
We got you.
Yep, you're good.
We can hear you, but you
I
can't
can't
hear
hear
us.
myself. I can't hear you guys. Shit.
What should we say about him? I'm just kidding.
Always Joe messing things up, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, I guess when you get calls, it messes up the audio. Hold on, there he is. You know, the easiest thing would be to turn off your notifications, but what is he doing? All right. These other two questions are for Joel, so I don't know. Are you gonna come like prepared, Aaron, with like a presentation, or are you gonna kind of wing it in February?
We'll be prepared, but at the same time, like I don't want everything to just fit into a box. You know, we want to be able to answer the questions that people have. So we'll share a few things. And actually, the question that Chris Webb just asked, I know he was asking Joel about does he have a spouse that is behind investing, but he also addressed the question to everyone. How would you address this if someone has a spouse who does not like RE investing? That is a probably very hot topic for many. And I actually want to hear Mark's answer to that first, and then I have my own thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. It does go a long way. You know, it is challenging. I think they don't necessarily, well, I can't speak because from experience, but I would say, I would think that they don't necessarily have to be involved in real estate in a sense, but they have to have the same vision on why you're doing it, like what the end goal is, right? So like if real estate is the path that you're seeing to this ultimate end goal of a certain lifestyle that you both will be living, then definitely having them both on the same page is going to be super helpful. But if you have one person that just has a different vision in a sense, right? Like one person is trying to reach financial freedom by doing real estate, and the other person wants to enjoy the moment, and you know they want to be spending all the whatever paycheck comes in and living for the moment. You know that's going to be definitely challenging for you to end up in the same place, right?
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much what I was going to say too. Is like, can you tie it back to what the end goal that you're trying to accomplish is? If you have a vision of where you want to go, but your spouse has a completely different vision, and you guys haven't spent time talking about it and making sure that you're at least aiming for the same target, you might have different ideas of how to get there. But at least if you're aiming for the same thing, you know that you're probably going to be able to have a conversation about that. But if what happens is you've found something that you love, real estate investing, you become super obsessed with it. You start hanging out with goobers like us and having conversations like this on a Tuesday morning, and your spouse is like, well, what is all this time you're spending? How does this translate back to our end goal? That's where you might lose them, right? So I think tying back to that outcome you're trying to achieve. And then the other thing too is like sometimes it's just like a matter of figuring out ways to involve them in whatever you're doing, right? Like if you're off in a silo working on something and they have no relatability to it, and they don't have any passion for it, and it's just totally out of sight, out of mind, it's also, it can be a detractor from the time that you're spending with them. So finding different ways to involve them where they want to be involved, I think that's ultimately like what, at least for me and my wife, we found the areas that she likes to be involved. I handle some things, on the like administrative and bookkeeping side that doesn't light her fire, and then we found a way to collaborate on the things that do get us fired up. Joel, this question kind of piggybacks back to you. Chris Webb was asking, do you have a spouse who is behind your investing, and how would you address if someone has a spouse who does not like real estate investing?
Before you
Divorce
answer
'em.
though, Joe, I want to say what's up to Big Val, who not only has the best voice around, but he's also a super smart guy. He says, Joel, put your phone on airplane mode.
I tried that,
Now,
but my internet connection's not working that well.
oh man.
I'm in my office. I don't know what's going on here, but
All right, well, you can answer
yeah.
Chris's question now.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna be rude and just say divorce them, but yeah, I'm at the back end of a divorce with young kids, so we were never on the same page about time, and investing was one of the things that went into that. So if you're not on the same page, man, it is hard, and it is draining, and it is emotionally just like rough. So yeah, I don't have a lot of advice on that path, but yeah, for me, it ended up in divorce. So there you go.
Good job, Chris. What a question to ask.
I mean, it's a good question because I mean, if you can stare the worst case scenario in the face and be okay with it, like that's, one thing that could be a good exercise for people to do.
No, that is true, man. Great perspective. Good attitude about it. No, good attitude, man. There is Aaron's email in the chat. So Kerry, I believe if you want to reach out to him, or anyone that's here tuning in wants to connect with Aaron, know more about assisted living or what he's working on, hit him up. Troy is here. He says, congrats, Aaron. Excited for you and your wife presenting at ORAT in February. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be there due to family commitments. Super excited for you and your wife. Troy was there this past year. I believe you guys even hung out the last day or before you guys left, right?
We did. Good to see you, Troy. I appreciate that, man. Bummed you won't be there in February, but totally get it.
Old guy REI says they shouldn't be able to reap the rewards if they don't help.
Ooh,
And
I like it. Spicy.
Yeah. Carrie says, we got our tickets for February ORAT. I cannot wait to meet you guys. Now I just need to get my PTO approved from school. I thought you were gonna do the colonoscopy thing again. You said, Carrie, but they usually don't have questions on that when you say that. She was talking about that on one of the accountability calls the other day. Let's see. Chris Webb says, I think you brought up a great point about the time. Yes, it is true that you want me on the same page, but also the same timeline. Okay. So Casey says, recast, Joe. He's trying to remind you about his question about recasting the loan. So let's get back to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the basic benefit of it is you lower your monthly payment, right? So if you've got a $300,000 loan at whatever rate, and you decide that you want to take $100K, pay down the mortgage balance, and then recasting is the function of re-amortizing that lower balance over the same time frame. So let's say you have a 30-year loan, and now you're a half year into it, so you're 6 months in. If you did nothing at all and you put 100 grand towards your balance, your payment stays the same, and essentially you're going to be paying off that loan much faster, which you can calculate. So the whole purpose of a recast is just to have the lower payment, which to have flexibility is always a good thing. And the typical cost to do a recast is maybe $500, give or take. So I mean, I generally think it's a good thing because I always believe that having flexibility is a good thing. But then the question becomes, well, having that lower payment, taking those funds, whether it's 50 grand, 100 grand, and there are minimums to do it, what's the best use of that money? Because if you got a mortgage for 6%, 6.5%, can you go get a bigger return somewhere else? Which again, that's up for debate. But the one thing about paying down a mortgage is that you have a guarantee. You know exactly what your return on your money is going to be. You're eliminating that debt or that portion of the debt to be exposed to that rate. So it's a guarantee. So depending on someone's journey and risk tolerance, there's pros and cons to that. But that's my 2 cents. Does that help at all?
I think it was a little bit. I mean, that's a great answer. I think his main he said, do I have to pay a lump sum towards principal? I guess maybe his biggest question is, do you have to make a lump sum payment?
Yeah, so if you call the mortgage servicer, they'll tell you what the requirements are. And typically it's going to have a minimum requirement. Maybe it's 50K, I'm just guessing, of what the minimum is that you have to pay down to be able to do a recast.
Yeah, so yeah.
But you can call the servicer and find out.
Let's see. Jeff says life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. All right. Anything else you guys want to dig into? I don't know if there's any. Frank says recasting makes sense on lower priced properties, 70 to 100K. Yeah.
I disagree. I disagree about that.
Oh, well, why is that?
I mean, let's say that you've got a $100,000 property and you've got a loan for 60K and you want to take 20 or 30K to pay it down. At those price points and the minimal cash flow, you might as well just take the money and go buy another one. Just my opinion. Half joking, probably.
Frank
Mostly
was
joking.
phrasing it as a question, so I don't think he was stating that as his opinion.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Sorry. I was trying to make Frank out to be the bad guy.
It's cool. I got you, Frank.
That makes sense. So yes. So I think that is kind of Casey's thought also. So he is in California. He is possibly looking to relocate to Vegas, but he can't find anything in Vegas that makes sense as far as cash flowing and whatnot. So his thoughts is maybe lowering his residence in California so that thing cash flows even more, and then he can kind of relocate to Vegas, but he's generating cash flow on the California property, or increase the cash flow even more that it would now.
I have a question back to Aaron. So, talking to investors in my world, okay, we're looking at cash flow, looking at cap rates, looking at NOI, net operating income, and trying to analyze good deals, not good deals, etc. So the model of I think you said you used the word lease to the operator. So the actual finding of the patients who need the services, that's done through the entity that's leasing, the operator. So you build the infrastructure, lease it to the operator, and then they go do all that stuff.
Correct. Essentially, you are a landlord the same way that you would be for a family or an individual tenant. You're responsible. You hold the same type of insurance. You have a lease agreement, which in this case, in ours, it's a long-term lease. So it's a 5-year lease, has built-in rent escalators. They're responsible for all repairs under $500. And even if it's above $500, if it's due to wear and tear caused by their residents, they're responsible for it. So I can count on both hands the amount of times I've had to cover maintenance costs in the last 6 years on those properties. The major CapEx, that is something that is our responsibility. So the roof and the mechanicals and HVAC, but the operational responsibility, all the licensing that they need to hold, the insurance, the extra insurance, and the responsibility for marketing and filling those beds, collecting the rent, dealing with each individual tenant and their arrangement, that is the operator. So we don't have to chase down individual people to pay us every month. They just auto ACH us the contracted amount. And whether, there's one of our houses right now that has 2 out of 4 rooms full, we're still getting the same rent. And, the company's still in good shape. Like, we have a good relationship with them. We have, area manager and house managers. We have all their numbers and their information. They have a line into us. We have a line into them, but we have no responsibility for that operations. I think I said earlier, the one thing I would add though, is you do have a more of an ethical responsibility to make sure that these businesses are running in a condition that you would be okay with, right? Everyone can make their own decision about the standard they want to set there, but I think of it as, if it's happening in a house that we own, it is our responsibility to know that at a minimum, it's meeting the requirements for what they're advertising for their business, and hopefully the high quality of life that these people deserve.
So the actual structure you're going to be building, you said 16 beds or 16 rooms, or like how many square feet, how many stories, like how big are these? Because I think you're building 2 different ones.
Yeah, it's a beast. It's 16 bedrooms, 16 private bathrooms. They're just over 10,000 square feet each. I'm going to find a link that I can share. Maybe Mark, you can drop it in the chat. our mentor, Brett, who has built these exact buildings, he has a virtual walkthrough of his buildings, and you can see, just it's got nice big tall ceilings. He calls it a mansion because it is a mansion. It's a luxury build, nice finishes, like very, very comfortable through and through every single room. But yeah, that is a whole world apart from the 4-bed, 2-bath, single family homes that we have in Las Vegas that are just embedded on a residential street. You wouldn't know that they're assisted living if you walked by them. So yeah, two completely opposite ends of the assisted living spectrum.
Okay, because I'm kind of going back to Alex's question. He says, he doesn't want his kids to, bid out to the lowest bidder. So if Alex wanted to do this on his own, I'm just kind of walking through the basics here. So the plot of land that you bought, like how many acres? Was it zoned commercial? Was it zoned residential?
For our current one,
mm-hmm.
the one that we're building?
Yep.
Yeah, so this one actually, it is requiring to be zoned for multifamily. So it is basically a type of commercial. But this, for the 16-bed, will not function in a residential neighborhood, at least not in Tomball. That varies so much. Like even different parts of the same city have different regulations. Las Vegas is a great example. The city of Las Vegas has different overlays and regulations than Clark County. So I any answer I give you, you must go and research and validate in your own municipalities because there's so much variance, not only in the regulations themselves, but even in what things are called. But ours will be zoned for multifamily. We actually went through that rezoning process as part of this, 10 months leading up to this. So my wife had to go and present the vision to the city council of Tomball.
Damn.
The mayor was there, and they had 4 different meetings. There's 4 different opportunities for people to come and object. You have to notify all the neighbors. It's super old school too. You have to take out we don't take it out, but the city posts it in the local paper. It's in the physical paper, so that there's ample opportunity for anybody who objects to it to raise a case. And then ultimately they make a vote. I even saw somebody else, Mark, earlier in the comments talking about how they had one pop up on their street. I mean, this is a reality, right? That these homes are embedded, especially if they're lower occupancy. There's not a ton that people can do to protest that. It's actually generally in some areas even illegal to discriminate against these types of homes. But at the same time, as a neighbor or someone who lives nearby, it's perfectly reasonable for people to wonder or at least want to know what's operating on their street. So I would say there's just a range of things, but for our project, ours is zoned for multifamily, and we'll be building with, it's more of a commercial style build than a residential.
I want to say good morning to Ike Hobbs tuning in. What's up, man? I know he's rehabbing, I believe, a fourplex in Kansas right now. Big Andy from Ohio is tuning in. Not Ike, but Troy asks, how do you find those operators, Aaron?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's honestly not it's not particularly easy. I think largely the network, there are local networks of operators in most major cities. They're not, it's a still pretty emerging scene, right? Like this idea has not caught on largely enough that these are burgeoning communities. So even in Houston, for example, my wife spends a lot of time going out to these networking events with other assisted living operators. And sometimes there's a handful of people there, including her, right? And that's Houston, which is an enormous city with millions of people. So short of trying to target those type of events, which I do think is a good use of time if you're trying to build those connections, joining a group like the RAL Room, where that's one of their benefits, is kind of connecting people locally with different operators. They're out there marketing all the time, trying to figure out who are the operators that are out there, what's their reputation, who is good and who's not. And also just working with people who have gone through that process of vetting operators. It's there's no one single path. There are agents and there are becoming more and more of them that specialize in this. And actually, Mark, this, my wife's getting her license too. And we want to be able to offer something similar where we can act as a bridge between investors and people who want to do assisted living. Because there are a lot of operators that don't have any real estate knowledge and they don't want to have anything to do with that side of the house. They just care. They have a big heart. They want to serve, the seniors or whomever, whatever population they're serving. They just want to show up and run the business. They're not interested in real estate. And that's perfect, right? If we have people like the folks on this call. that want to be the real estate but not the operations, there are those matches that can be made. You just got to kind of get out there and start asking questions and mingling in the right types of groups.
I also shared that link that you put in a private chat. That link was for what again?
Oh, this is the walkthrough of our mentor's mansion in Georgetown. This Matterport link Mark's about to share, it you can click through and walk around the mansion and see all the different rooms. It's pretty incredible.
Okay, so go check it out, everyone. There is the link. Jeff is mentioning, what did he say here? He says, we were under contract on a triple net that had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and 4 efficiencies. They were all rented to a non-profit operator. Turns out the seller misrepresented the income and expenses.
Yikes.
Let's see. Oh, Frank has a question. Back to the recast. He says, when you recast, does the 30 years start over or starts with the time left on the loan, Joe?
It does not start over. You just keep the original term.
All right. Hey, morning, Jen. Jen is here. Jen is a big part of the school school and ORAC community. She's probably trying to figure out how to get everything situated, the check-ins a little bit smoother than last year. A lot of people mentioned that that was kind of a hiccup, maybe. So I'm sure Jen is working on that. Chris says, yes, if people did not watch the live when Mark was on with Aaron again, that was very eye-opening. Yeah, I believe Chris had a lot of questions during that live. He was very interested in the numbers you're presenting. Let's see. Ike says, what's the 5-10 year outlook on these? Are there risks that a different solution for senior living becomes more popular in the future, or that regulations could make the small operators obsolete?
This is an awesome question. I love it. There's definitely, like with anything, there's regulatory risks, there's operational risks. You know, in our case, it's a development project. So I don't think this is quite what you're asking, right? But like in our case, we have to get through the development, we have to stay on budget, get these things built before we can even open them. So there's plenty of stuff we're going to have to navigate in that window. But once they're open and stabilized and we've got our staff hired, you know, a different solution coming in for senior care. There was someone we were talking to the other day who was interested in investing, and they're a geriatrician and they work with seniors, and they were talking about a lot of research is coming out to fight back against some of the symptoms of dementia and Alzheimer's, and that's fantastic if true. I would love to see advancements in that so that people don't have to go through those challenges. However, from a volume perspective, there are so many people aging so quickly that, you know, you can't use a technology solution to solve a housing problem, right? It's the same thing with rental properties. Like if there's a shortage of housing compared to the number of people that need housing, that demand will persist regardless of what kind of solutions people come up with. Now, I can't make that as a blanket statement. Of course, there's always like hyper localized risks and things that can happen. But for the most part, especially we're trying to build into the top end of the market with nice houses, really good personalized service. I think that competes. That is the alternate solution to these big box facilities where, you know, yeah, they can fit a lot of people in there, but the quality of care is not what you would want. The personalization is not what you would want if it even exists. And it's kind of not a very fun way to live out the final days of your life. So if anything, I think of us as kind of the alternate that might be disrupting the market.
Let's see. Troy says, I have a friend that is a director for AGS, Rehabilitation Memory, and Elderly Care Facilities. I've thought about talking with him about partnering on some assisted living facilities. Okay. Carrie says, I hold a chair on the board of directors for a local nonprofit that has 3 of these types of homes, but for disabilities. This stuff excites me. I like the idea of assisted living. Thanks for answering questions. Yeah. Awesome.
It's a pleasure.
And
Both of you, please hit me up if you have any questions. I'm easy to reach and would love to help you out.
And Joel says, Aaron, assuming everything goes as planned, when do you do it? Is it when do you do it again, or would you do it again? Is that what you're asking, Joel?
When,
I think I
yeah.
see.
When do you do it? Okay.
Yeah. So the land we bought, 7 acres. We're building the first 2 homes in this phase 1. There is room for 2 more homes on this lot comfortably. Now it's funny because 7 acres, you think 4 homes, 7 acres, you could probably fit 20 homes depending on the size. But these are big 10,000 square foot ranch style single story. So they have a
Holy
pretty big
shit.
footprint, and they have also, we're in Houston, so drainage and detention ponds and impervious coverage, all this stuff to make sure that it's not going to be at high risk for flooding and things like that. We can fit 4 properties total. So our plan is to get these things stabilized. You know, we raised money from investors. We made essentially we made projections publicly, and we got people bought in based on those projections. So our responsibility first and foremost is to get these things up and running and deliver on those projections. But beyond that, we can activate that phase 2 probably within 3 to 4 years if we choose to, if everything's going well. And one of the benefits, Joel, you'll like this in particular, with the SBA loans is that once you have operational track record, you can actually apply for up to 100% financing on future phases. So we'll have either our investors that can roll some of their capital forward into the second phase, or we can just go apply as experienced operators and get the entire thing funded. So whether that's on this land or another plot of land, we probably within 3 to 4 years is the next phase.
That's
All right,
awesome.
this is a good one. We've been going for about an hour. I don't know how much time you guys have. I can keep doing this. So if you guys got to bounce, just let me know. But maybe last few things, maybe like, so Aaron, as far as like capital raising and whatnot, I mean, was this your first project that you had to raise capital for? I mean, how was that experience?
Yeah, this is the first time we ever raised capital outside of, we have one partnership with my parents on a couple of properties in Washington, but that was, of course, friends and family. So this was way beyond that. We raised $2.8 million. We launched that capital raise at the end of May, and we just finished it this past weekend as of the time of this recording. It was probably the single most challenging thing I've ever tackled. And I say I, but it's really we. We have a team. My wife and I, we have multiple other partners on our general partner team. We have our mentor. We have people, Charlie, who was on the live stream with me last time. He and his partners helped with the capital raise and getting the word out. I went on 14 different podcasts, and I presented, I did live deal pitches in person here in Houston a few different times. And it was kind of like going on a little promo tour. Not kind of, it was going on a little promo tour. And then the reward for that is tons and tons of individual conversations, which were incredible. It made us, more resolved and confident in our business plan, but it's also a ton of energy and work. I still work full time. We got 3 young kids. So I would say this is definitely the most challenging undertaking I can remember. But we're also coming out of it feeling very strong, and like we have an incredible team of investors. It was not, it wasn't just 1 or 2 people, right? This is 20 plus investors who have joined us, and thankfully they all have some degree of connection to assisted living. Maybe they have family members who have gone through it. Maybe they're healthcare professionals themselves. But the group of people that we have on board are all aligned values, and we're feeling good about where we are heading into hopefully what will be closing on the land very soon.
To add on to that, is there, with the actual fundraising process and the networking and all that, is there one conversation or one connection that just kind of led the way, said, hey, this is going to happen, gave you the belief that it's all going to kind of fit and follow through and work out okay?
It's so difficult to describe. Like when you're trying to pace the capital raise, 2.8 million, it's like, at the beginning when there's the psychology of like when somebody sees that nobody's done something, nobody wants to be the first one to do it. So like as it picks up steam, more and more people become interested. And then of course, like what's funny is that we hit the 90% mark like last Wednesday or Thursday, and then all of a sudden there was this flood of people like reaching out that hadn't reached out before, that wanted to jump in. And so that's just like, I guess, marketing psychology a little bit. But as far as one conversation, I don't know. I mean, like there are, what I would say is this, there were certain people where I didn't know how serious they were, and you don't know unless you ask them. But like I had entire hour-long conversations with people thinking that, oh, maybe they'll put in 50. And some of those people came back around completely surprisingly and put in 5 or sometimes even 10x that amount. So I would say just like you kind of have to treat every conversation, no matter what your initial read on that person is, as a serious lead until they give you a reason to think otherwise. And that level of intensity and focus and answering people's questions, it takes a lot of energy. And so I guess I don't know. I don't want to call anyone out by name, but there are definitely some conversations where they surprised me with coming back around and jumping in with a lot more than I thought they were going to.
Yeah, that verbiage of nobody wants to be the first one. I just watched a video of Tom Cruise talking about coming out of COVID and all the film production shut down. And I think he's kind of the spirit of getting the movie industry to keep on going. And he would call a director and say, well, yeah, so-and-so is, already going to be doing this. And it was just a conversation of, hey, well, everyone else is doing it. So why don't you do some filming and keep shooting? And just this kind of like noise of filming continuing to go. And then one person did it, the next person did it, and just kept on going. Just that thought of people in the game versus actually doing it. Yeah, it's just the marketing psychology, very interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure could do an entire call on capital raising alone. I am not an expert. We've only done this one project, but I learned so much. And we're only a few days coming off of this, but I'm definitely planning to spend some time to like write out what worked, what didn't work, where we put in money or effort that maybe we wouldn't do again, and also where we wish we put more time and effort. So hopefully people can benefit from that. So I will be sharing that on my socials and all that as it comes out.
Yeah, just a reminder, Aaron's YouTube channel, Joe's YouTube channel is in the chat. Go subscribe, connect with them. I also put Frank, Old Guy REI's YouTube channel. Go subscribe. He's doing a lot of cool stuff there. I think he posted already. There's this story I still don't know about it. Everybody else seems to know about it. But it's Frank's not his finest moment, he said. It's a mouse story where he almost went to jail dealing with some sort of mouse. But go check it out. I think he posted that on his channel. There is the Amazon link for Dion's book. So go check that out. And like I said, here's Aaron's email. If you want to connect with him, reach out to him. As I mentioned, he'll also be speaking in February at the ORAD event. And someone also wanted me to remind everyone that Dion is speaking in October at the Bigger Pockets event. So I believe Zuber's going to actually be speaking there also. But Dion is one of the keynote speakers for that event. And we'll wrap things up with Joe. Are you going to be in Vegas this year?
I'm gonna say no. By me saying no, it means yes. Because last year I said yes and it was a no. So I'm gonna say no this time.
Aaron is speaking though, man.
Can you just listen to what I just said, please?
Well, I did, but I don't.
I'm a
Joel's
superstitious
a twin
guy.
dad. He's a twin dad, so I get it. It's hard to say yes to anything 6 months in advance. So
that is true. All right, I'll give him a little bit of break on that. But all right, this was a good one. Yeah, we'll do another one. Like you said, maybe on capital raising. We can talk about that. So Joe, any final thoughts? About rates. You want people to reach out to you? Are you swamped? What's going on?
I mean, one big hot topic that's happening a lot is people talking about HELOCs. People wanting to be able to get into the next deal, pulling out money with a HELOC on a primary or rental property. That's been a hot topic. The other.
Damn. Leaving us wanting more.
I don't know, man. Well, this, like I said, man, this was a good one. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. I will be back tomorrow, same time. I will have Justin Cambra on tomorrow. He was on a few weeks ago. He's doing a lot of cool stuff in Seattle. He's a big part of the Thatch Gwynn mastermind community, and he is doing detached ADUs, and ADUs are getting very popular. So tune in for that. Justin will answer all you guys' questions about ADUs, especially in Seattle. It's a big thing right now. They changed a lot of the regulations and whatnot. And so tune in tomorrow, same time. And what were you finish up with what you're saying, Joe?
Oh, that in Vegas, I'm going to be pitching to you, and you're going to be hitting, and I'm going to strike you out from both sides, right-handed and left-handed.
Well, we'll see, man. So if anyone is wondering what this is on my shoulder, I just had my shoulder surgery on Monday. So I figure I'll kill two birds with one stone. I'll sit here with my ice compression on since I have to do it twice a day for 80 minutes. So I am sitting here with the ice compression on. And yeah, Chris Webb was on last time with Justin. Justin Canberra, like I said, he's doing a lot of cool stuff. And he's also known, he has this parking lot. He said his first deal he ever bought in his area, it was like a home run deal, and he didn't realize it. Like, he just bought this amazing property that turned out to be where he had it's enough space. His plan down the road is to put like 16 units on it at the end of the day. But he also has this parking lot that has all these parking spaces that he rents out, and he makes like $3,000 a month. All right, Aaron. Yeah, we'll wrap things up. Aaron got to go. Everyone, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you folks tomorrow.
Thank you, guys.